Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything Pistons, and news writer for Sports Illustrated.
And for the third week in a row, we got our guy, Robbie Bedelon. You know him as Bobby Buckets in the DVB comments. So Robbie, I keep doing that. I keep going Robbie by. I keep flipping it back and forth. I'm sorry, man. Welcome back to the show. Thanks again for joining us. How you doing today? You are muted, my friend. Happens to the best of us.
Rookie mistake, man. Come on. I was on with Order of the Blazing Horse last week, and it ended up being Robbie Bobby by the end of the podcast. So you're not alone there, Wes.
We may need to
Robbie Bobby.
Bobby.
Yeah, Robbie Bobby. Fun to say.
It's almost Ricky Bobby-esque, which I think
Very
is fun
close.
about it. So
you
great movie.
First, you're last. Yeah.
Exactly. Wasn't someone high when they said that? Maybe I shouldn't say that on this podcast. That's fine. Ricky Bobby, Robbie, whatever it is. We also, Blake, we got some big news to throw out here. And if you are an eagle-eared listener, maybe you have picked up on this already, but we wanted Blake to drop it. So Blake, I'm just going to throw it your direction here and kind of give you the floor.
Oh no, thank you guys. So I mean, just not to bury the lead. This is going to be my final farewell show as co-host of the Pindown. It's been like 2 full seasons, probably a little over 2 years. Yeah, that we've been doing this back in the days when Wes and Jack, now known as Pistons Jack, were doing DBB Live, and we transitioned to this show, and I jumped on. It's been a long run. I mean, it's no secret. Just my schedule and family and everything are just making things a little tough to work. So it's all good. And when me and Wes were talking about this, we were talking about what the show will look like moving forward. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people that would be great and eager to take on. The first name that I brought up was Robbie, and Wes was like, I was thinking the same too. I mean, you guys all know Robbie. He's been on with me. He's been on with both of us. He's been on with Wes these couple weeks. I mean, you see all his articles.
You've kind of been a substitute co-host for me in the past, actually, on like 2 separate occasions, if I remember right. So, yeah, absolutely. Sorry to jump into that.
No, you're good. I mean, Robbie you've seen his articles all the time on DBB. He's really crushing it over there, and I know his thoughts and his presence will be super valuable on this show. But before I kick it over to Robbie with those awkward flowers, just want to thank everyone for listening. I mean, when Wes called me to ask if I wanted to be a part of the show, I was like, yeah, no brainer. Was sort of at the start, I was writing for DBB a little bit and like popped on with Wes and Jack to talk draft stuff, but really never thought I'd have a podcast or like a microphone where people would listen to me, and especially one where listeners would be so involved, really like making our lives easier and giving us talking points, because we really just want to know what like the Pistons community wants to talk about. We can make a guess, but it really isn't the same if we don't have that just public knowledge from everyone, and making it really a community-based show. So most of all, appreciate you, Wes. It's been a long run. Robbie, same goes to you. And then of course, just everyone who listens, calls into the phone line, leaves a comment on DBB, Twitter, whatever it is. I'm just super grateful, and never thought we'd be here when Wes gave me a call a couple of years ago.
Real quick, I want to jump in on this because this is exactly what I wanted to bring up. So I was glad you brought it up here, Blake. Again, you're just kind of we've been in agreement, probably way too much for our own good over the course of the past few years doing this show. And this is just another time where it's basically that same thing. And in fact, with Robbie, absolutely, man, you were my first choice as well. So we're lockstep on that. But before I kick it over to you, you can kind of give your, if you want to give an official intro, or we can just talk Pistons, what have you. But look, when I called up Blake, we were thinking Sean and I had been working right on going, okay, we're thinking maybe it'd be a good idea to take that DBB live and make it into a podcast. It's a pretty easy jump to do. And we would just have to change the name because of some of the SB Nation stuff that was going on at the time. But otherwise, it'd be the exact same show. And it was just going to be too much for Jack, man. Like, he's over in Australia. It's a crazy time difference. And he was working just at the very start of the Pistons Jack project, which has obviously been hugely successful for him. So it just didn't make sense for him to do it. And Blake, like you said, you and I had talked maybe twice, because you would come on to DBB Live about twice at that time to talk just draft stuff. And as Jack and I were brainstorming, he and I were in lockstep, like, oh, who should we ask? We should probably call up Blake and see if he'd do it. Guys, the Pistons were terrible, right? We were, the first season we did this show was the record-setting loss year. All right, that was the timing that Blake jumps in on this. He said yes to be a co-host to a brand new podcast that we had, no idea how much work it would be, where it would go, with his first kid on the way, and he jumped in both feet. So, Blake, you said thank you to me. I can't say thank you enough to you, because now, having joined that club, I cannot imagine a few months ago going, yeah, you know what, my daughter is probably about 3 months away, but I think now is the time to make the choice to start up a brand new show, jump in with both feet, never look back, and just do whatever it takes to help grow it. So, man, like, we couldn't have gotten this far without your input and everything you've done. So I'm appreciative to you and excited to have Robbie jumping on now for the future. So very bittersweet here, but just appreciate you, man.
Oh man, of course. And yeah, not to belabor it, but yeah, it was like a no-brainer when you asked me to jump on. And when we started the show, just for some look into like my life, I was finishing up my master's degree in journalism. And I mean, if anyone is interested in media, like, I don't know everything by any means. I'm still like very early in my career, but it's definitely, I was in the mode where you like say yes to everything. And like, I've paid attention, like, I've been a Pistons fan all my life. Like, it was really a dream to just be able to talk about this team no matter what it was. Like, when I was in college, me and my friends would buy $4 seats to go to the Palace and see like Andre Drummond and Rodney Stuckey and whatever it might be. So I really like went back to school just because I followed the Pistons so closely, and I felt when they dropped off after those like going to work age, they kind of got forgotten about a little bit. And I know we're all like super in tune, but people just are paying attention to other teams. And I mean, this team is just like, I just love the Pistons. And I'll hopefully, I know this is my last official show as a co-host, but I'm going to be talking to Wes and Robbie, and hopefully come on at some points throughout the year, whatever happens. But yeah, I'm always going to be following this team. You guys can still find my written work mainly on SI. I'll still be on the DBB verse a little bit, but even in my work that's more the league at large, I try to give it a little bit of Pistons flavor and write about that team specifically, so everyone can find me. And it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later, as corny as that is. And yeah, not to ramble on any further, but just to say, like, this podcast was really a dream and contributing to DBB and everything. So can't thank all of you enough.
And just to keep the sentimental stuff going for maybe like 2 more minutes here, because we do have to talk some Pistons. I do want to emphasize one, like you said, Blake, you won't be a stranger. We'll have you back on again. Absolutely. We're going to have to. We need at least the draft perspective, because I know you're already looking ahead to some of the like next class. Whatever. We'll get you back on for sure. But cannot emphasize enough that, Robbie, man, you were both of our first choices. So we were both elated when you said yes to come on. We've obviously had you on a few times. You've been fantastic to talk some Detroit hoops with on the show. Always fun chatting with you in the DBB Slack as well. So, Robbie, man, if you want to give just a brief introduction to our listeners of kind of your background, what they can expect out of the Pindown, I guess, moving forward with the new co-host.
Yeah, this became way more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I'm like, oh, this
I'm
is
sorry.
kind of like a heartfelt goodbye.
Our bad.
Yeah.
Had to do it, but
No. I'm very, very grateful that both of you thought of me. Like that's very, very kind to me, and I appreciate you both for sharing those kind words. I am going on, I believe it's year 3 at Detroit Bad Boys now. So I've certainly been involved in the Pistons land lately, especially the DBB land. I've been a Pistons fan my whole life. My claim to fame is that my dad and I, when I was like 10 or 12 or something, went to Game 5 in 2004. So I got to see the Going to Work team win it all. So that's a fun memory to have. But again, just more so, thankful for both of you guys for asking me to fill into Blake's massive shoes that I will have to fill. And no, just excited to be a part of the team. And yes, Blake, this is certainly not a goodbye. It's a see you later. And we will certainly get you on the schedule to come back and talk many, many times.
Well, now I have to say I'm kind of a little bitter because I was at the Game 5 the following year with the Robert Ory shot. That was like the most heartbreaking thing for me. I think I got grounded at the end of that series because of like the temper tantrum I threw when the when the Pistons finally lost. But oh man, that's. Hey, I wish my dad decided to bite the bullet a year earlier, but no, those are like core memories as like growing up a Pistons fan and brought us all to where we are today. I thought that would be a good transition into the Pistons talk at hand, but overall I turned it sentimental again. So I apologize for that. But Robbie, you're already great. You're going to keep crushing it. And I think you're underselling all the great like film work that you do on DBB and everything. So in addition to the pod, everyone be sure to check out Detroit Bad Boys for everything Robbie's doing, Sean's doing, the rest of the staff too. It's really the best place for Pistons coverage across the board, in my slightly biased opinion.
Seconded for sure. And honestly, guys, as you were kind of talking through the Game 5 stuff, growing up in Chicago, I can't relate to that. We obviously couldn't just like pick up a cheap ticket and go to a game or anything like that. I remember watching those games and being disappointed in the 04 or in the 05 one. 04 was like really my first introduction. But as you were thinking and talking about those things, I couldn't help but just be relieved that the facial hair component of this show will continue on. Because if you're just listening, you're not watching on YouTube here.
You're missing out.
Blake has worked on a fantastic stash. All right. It looks great. And Robbie has a nice beard going, and I don't have the genes for this. So I am just relieved that, we can continue that strong, manly facial hair element of the Pindown moving forward. That's my biggest concern, and it's being addressed. So I'm pleased.
This is the first time I've had facial hair in my life, and it kind of started out as a bet between my wife and I on whether I could do it. I'm still seeing how it's going. It might shave it in a little bit, but yeah,
I genuinely love it. I'm giving you a hard time, but truly it is fantastic. It is a great mustache. I appreciate it.
Still working on it, but yeah, my like 3 weeks worth of facial hair definitely contributes to the tradition.
Now I'm starting to think that your guys' conversations were, hey, Robbie has a beard like that. We should bring him on because he has a beard.
That's absolutely what it was. I mean, that was the first thought. Yeah. Because Bryce, he's got his beard, Bryce does, but he can't do it. He can't fit in a third podcast, so we had to go for the next best thing, which was Robbie Bettelon and his beard. So obviously, but another player that doesn't have facial hair, because this is a fantastic transition, is Ibuka Corey, right? And let's talk a little bit of summer league, guys. Let's finally 15 minutes in here, and apologies for not talking Pistons basketball for 50 minutes. I hope you guys can forgive us a little bit here, just given the situation that this all is. So apologies, Blake and I getting a little sentimental here, but I think it was worthwhile. So I hope you don't give us too much of a hard time. Regardless, Abuka Okori early on in Summer League. We already talked about game 1, Robbie, but games 2 and 3, not nearly as strong. I wouldn't say overly negative either, but just generally speaking, what's been both of your impressions of his game, the rookie here, so far in Summer League?
Blake, take the lead on your last step.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think I missed, because I was out last week, I missed the strong first game from Okori, and it's been a little bit of a rough showing since. Robbie, I'm not going to pluck all the stats that you kindly threw together for us, but yeah, just rough shooting altogether in his last 3 games, struggling to put the ball in the hoop, especially from 3-point range. I am not concerned about that. I mean, I think Summer League just as a whole, you can get excited about stuff. You can overreact in positive ways or negative ways. But I do think for a 19-year-old kid, like, these games are just about getting him reps. Maybe it's not going to be the same pace as an NBA game, but just letting him do his thing. I mean, the shot certainly hasn't been falling. I definitely think he's forced some looks, made some bad decisions, but at the same time, like, he had that game where he had 7 steals, and I don't necessarily think he's going to be super impactful on the defensive end out of the gate, but I think that's a good sign, a positive you can take away from it. And even though the shot hasn't been falling, like, I don't hate that he's getting up 18 shots a night. I wouldn't want him to necessarily shy away when the shot's not falling. I think every rookie or young NBA player is going to be in those situations. I mean, Ron Holland, his shot has been a talking point for a long time. And my takeaway with him is, like, I love how he remains confident. Maybe that leads into some shots you wish he wouldn't take, but I'd rather him do that than shy away. And I think that's what Okori is doing. Overall, just in general, I think he's an exciting player who might need some time. I'm not sure what it's going to look like right out of the gate. So I think he's shown some flashes of what he can bring. I think he's shown a lot more of what might need some time or what he might need an adjustment with. But overall, I'm just trying not to react. Like, there are a ton of Summer League players that I've gotten excited about, and you could have said the same about Okori after the first game, but it's definitely not time to shy away from it. Just let it fly in this scenario is my takeaway, even if the shot's not falling.
We had a question in the DBB comments from Jocko Ball that I wanted to bring up, talking about Okori and how seriously we should take the ups and downs. I don't take them seriously at all. He has shot 29% from the field this week. He's 15 of 52, and I couldn't care less. I think what I'm most excited about Okori is, like, his ability to get to the rim. We've seen it every game. Like, regardless of his shooting ability, regardless of his shooting percentages through this week, he continues to get to the rim. And frankly, I'm not even sure he's playing with a starting lineup that is, like, useful for him. Like, I wouldn't call a secondary dribbler out there. I would say Bryce Williams and Chaz Lanier are 2, like, spot up kind of like movement shooters. Isaac Jones has not hit a 3 this week. Oddly enough, I wouldn't call Onyenso a stretch 5, but he's the one who has hit 2 threes. So I just don't feel like it's a very good roster for him to kind of, like, maximize his strengths, and yet he's still getting to the rim. And that's what I'm most excited about. And, like, here's what I'll say: if you're down about Okori's shooting percentages, AJ Diabonsa through his first 2 games is shooting 39%. So his percentages are not good. The last 3 games for Darren Peterson, he shot 6 of 18, 6 of 18, and 4 of 16. So another guy who is not shooting very well from the field, but I don't think those franchises, those fan bases are worried about, the future with those guys. So I'm still encouraged by Okori's play. Having somebody that to me is like a true point guard, where Danis, I feel like, is more of a combo guy. I'm just really excited to have kind of that secondary playmaker behind Cade. I will say, and I think this maybe contributes more to the roster, he has had 11 turnovers this week through these 3 games, and that was one of the things coming out of Stanford is he doesn't really turn the ball over. In that Suns game, he missed Bryce Williams in transition, who was going to have an open layup. He missed Isaac Jones on a lob. So he's made some passes that I think he should hit. But also, Summer League has been so bizarre where the Suns threw a zone at Detroit. They had Rasheer Fleming, a 6'8" wing, guarding Okori 90 feet, full court pressing him. So the defensive looks that he's seeing, I also think are just like weird, strange looks that he may only see in Summer League and not really see in the league. So I'm encouraged by his play, and by no means am I taking his shooting percentages seriously one bit.
So the different like defensive coverages, it makes the rim pressure all the more impressive, doesn't it? I mean, right? Like the fact that Rasheer Fleming, who is a very, very good NBA athlete, 6'8", 6'9", very long wingspan, like even in isolation, Okori was pretty quickly able to turn that guy's hips, get around him, and get into a floater over a big man in Kamen Malawach. That, it didn't go in, but it was a shot that he was comfortable taking. And so I think, to your point, Robbie, like that's been my takeaways so far. You don't worry too much about the percentages. The rim finishing stuff from his college career, it is what it is. It could be better, but I think that the focus on that does lose the fact that this was a 59% true shooting player at Stanford. Like 60s, you're very good guard, very efficient guard level. He was 59% on true shooting. Like this wasn't an inefficient player in college. This was just a player that, he got a lot of rim attempts and made less of them than you would have liked. So that was something he needed to work on. I think that's more or less translated here, but like you mentioned, the percentages, you just kind of need to throw those to the side. There's a lot of wonkiness with Summer League that just doesn't translate into the NBA game. What's more impressive is, I know he's forced a few shots, so I don't want to downplay that. But to me, it looks like the majority of the time, let's just say, 70%, 7 out of 10 of the attempts that he takes in any given stretch of basketball are shots that he looks comfortable with. He doesn't feel like he's really, overextending or overexerting himself in the creativity department to try to get the ball on the glass or at the rim. Like, they're difficult, but it doesn't look like he's really been forced into it. It's kind of like difficult by choice. There's some good and bad that come with that, but I still think overall the fact that he's generating looks that he wants whenever he wants them is just frankly a skill this team doesn't have other than Ibuka Okori, which is concerning for different reasons. However, a benefit for Okori. Is that fair, Blake?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big slight or maybe like unknown from Okori from his year at Stanford is he was the entire offense on a bad basketball team. And the point that Robbie brought up about this current roster maybe not playing to his strengths, I think carries over. So we really haven't seen what he looks like when he's not being targeted, like playing, whether he plays next to Cade. I mean, he certainly will at times, or Danis, or whatever the lineup is around him. He's going to have a lot less attention than he did in college and summer league. I mean, Chaz Lanier has been great. I'm sure we'll talk about him too, but I think that'll make Okori's life a lot easier as he adjusts. I mean, it's hard to say like playing at the NBA level will just make his game really pop. But I think that is a real possibility, because look what he did at Stanford when he was getting 2 on the ball. He was the top of every opponent's game plan. There's a little bit more to plan around for the summer league team, and it's like a weird environment that you don't really know what to draw from it. But still, that takeaway that we haven't seen what a Corey can look like as a secondary or tertiary scorer and initiator will happen once the regular season starts. And I'm just waiting for that, because I think that is likely his best option and what his role will be at the next level.
Blake, you mentioned Chaz Lanier. Let's go there next. All right, let's go there next, because Robbie, you and I were talking after game 1. We were a little disappointed in what Lanier had brought. And we said, you know what, his goal for the rest of Summer League needs to be 10 or more 3-point attempts per game. Let me read off what Chaz Lanier has done from 3 these past 3 Summer League games. Game 2, 7 for 12. Game 3, 8 for 12. And game 4 against the Suns, 4 for 9. So Chaz Lanier has absolutely stepped up. He has done exactly what, Robbie, you and I were hoping he would do. So in that, I mean, let's get a review. Like we said, it was a yellow flag. Is it all green flag now? Where are we at with Chaz Lanier?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's a green flag. And I also love that Chaz Lanier must be a listener to this podcast, given he took our advice. So Lanier is very interesting to me, because obviously like a flamethrower when he wants to be. His release is so quick. His ability to like settle as he's coming around a pin down, which, hey, pin down. As he's coming around a pin down screen, like his ability to set his feet, to get his shoulder square, to get his release up, it's so impressive. And I said this last week, but given it seems like Trajan likes the archetype of a movement shooter with, you know, the past signings of Beasley, Tim Hardaway, Duncan still on the team, Herder, I would call a movement shooter. There's a pathway for him on this roster. So here's the only thing I'll say though, if we're not going to count the shooting percentages of a Corey, I don't think we can also count on these shooting percentages from Lanier. So just this week, he's 19 of 31 from 3. That is 61%. I do not expect Chaz Lanier to continue to shoot 61%. I think the yellow flag that I'm now waving about Lanier's game is like, what else can he do offensively when he's not strictly an off-ball shooter? And one thing I'll add is it's hilarious that he's shooting worse from the field than he is from 3, and that's because he's 2 of 11 on 2-pointers this week through those 3 games. So, you know, it's like, can he add a 1 dribble pull? Can he pump fake off a pin down screen, get into the mid range and shoot an open midi? Can he get a floater in the lane? Like, what else can he continue to add to his offensive game? Because it felt like in that first game, it just wasn't a good game for him. He didn't have this off ball gravity that he's shown in these last 3 games. So my next thing for Lanier, the yellow flag that I'm now waving, is what comes after all this off-ball shooting? What can he do as kind of an on-ball creator when people close out super hard on him? What else can he do to add to his offensive game? That would be my next big question for Chaz.
So real quick, like I want to jump in and I want to get your reaction to this, because I mean, you know, sometimes this happens to me where like I'm watching the game and there's just something kind of unsettling about the way a player is playing. I can't describe it. I can't exactly pinpoint exactly what it is about what Lanier has been doing this past week, because I know the shooting numbers look great and I love how much he's getting those shots up. But there's just something about his games that have me a little like, I don't know. Like I know that the shot's going in and we want the shot to be going in. And maybe it's the fact that there's not much else there. Maybe it's the defense. I think he's gotten lost a couple of times in some off-ball relocations on offense, which is weird. Like there's just something that isn't sitting quite right with me to like give the full yes, Chaz Lanier is like got to be a lock here on the 15-man roster, and I can't figure it out exactly why that is, but it's there. It's like in my gut. I don't know what it is.
So I think at least what I've seen, or like he is a bit undersized. He's 6'3" guard, and I think what we're seeing right now from the summer league performances is he's fairly been a one-dimensional player. Like you haven't seen much of what you haven't seen much on the defensive end. Like Robbie said, he's been inefficient from everything outside of 3-point range. And I think for a young player like Lanier, and just really anyone across the board, if you come into this league and you're known for being a sharpshooter, a flamethrower off the bench, that's great. But to really take a stranglehold on minutes and an actual role on any team, especially one that has playoff aspirations, Eastern Conference Finals, title aspirations one day, you have to do a little bit more than that. I mean, I think the positive sign of it is, like Robbie said, you can't pick and choose like who to get excited about and who to be disappointed about. Lanier was more efficient like across the board in the G League. I mean, obviously the 3-point numbers he's putting up this week are incredible, but in 20 appearances with the Motor City Cruise last year, he shot 40% from 3 on over 8.5 attempts per game, and he was 46% from the field, which isn't great, but he did more than what we're seeing in summer league. But I think overall, you just need him to develop more aspects of his game. Like, and you've been seeing this across any team. Like Tyler Nickel, who was the Knicks' second-round pick, has gotten a lot of attention because of what he's been doing as a shooter in summer league. And he had an interview where he was asked like what he wants to show as part of his game, and his response was, everyone knows I can shoot the ball. Like, I want to show people that I'm more than capable as a defender and active on that end. And he's a bigger player. I think he's like 6'6" or 6'7". So I think Lanier is fighting an upwards battle from that standpoint. But then again, like, he was a college senior, so he is an older prospect. He's 24 years old, but I think you just need to see some things outside of the deep shot, because like we've seen the first summer league game, and at times he didn't have a real role in his rookie season, but when the shot's not falling, then that just becomes a problem.
I'd like to see him add a little bit of like what Duncan does after a screen, where he can kind of get into the paint, he can get to the rim, he throws some lobs to JD. I just think he needs to add a little bit extra of kind of like an off the dribble game once, they're closing out super hard on him, because they know he's a threat from behind the arc. Wes, your gut feeling on Chaz, I loved the way you worded it, because I have that exact feeling about Isaac Jones. I'm starting to just not be a fan of the way that he plays. And I think we talked about this, where I just think he has to be a shooter if he's going to make it. And he didn't make a 3, despite attempting 7 of them this week. And it's something about, like, I kind of feel like there were times when Ron is in transition, like sometimes I think Ron has tunnel vision and like he's going straight to the rim regardless of who's around him. Like, he's going up with that. I get similar tendencies with Isaac Jones, where I feel like because he's 245, 250, he's just bigger, stronger, more athletic than everybody, where he has to play like bully ball. And for him not making a 3, and for kind of being like an athletic power forward, he shot 38% this week. So my Chaz Lanier stock is going up since the last time that we talked, and my Isaac Jones stock is going down.
Real quick, to further that observation there, actually to further mine as well on Chaz Lanier, some of the worst 3-point misses this past week in Summer League. Like the most egregious air balls of this Detroit Pistons roster have come from those two players, Chaz Lanier and Isaac Jones. And now I'll kick it over to you, Blake, on that wonderful note.
I guess I'm just curious, like, how it's going to shake out. So, like, we already know that Anienso was signed to a two-way deal. The other spots are Isaac Jones and Elijah Harkless, who was recently signed. Like, is that Isaac Jones spot potentially up for grabs? I mean, I'd be pretty surprised if the team didn't bring him into training camp at least. But do you move like Lanier to a two-way spot if you don't see enough? I mean, I think he'd be a great like depth shooter at the end of the bench, and you already added more shooting this offseason. So I think what he provides is only a positive. And obviously with the cap too, you have to be you're trying to make things work a little bit now. So Chaz on the primary roster probably helps you more than it hurts you. But I am interested to see if that's how things stay heading into the regular season. Obviously there's plenty of times to make adjustments and see what happens. And maybe someone else that we're not even thinking about or talking about plays themselves into a two-way spot. So we'll see.
Yeah. Anybody
could
outside
always be a late addition too, right?
Yep.
I mean, like last year, Javonte Green was pretty late into the summer, and obviously that one worked out. So that's always a possibility. But I mean, yeah, right now it seems like it's Chaz Lanier versus Gary Harris for that last spot. And then if Lanier loses, I mean, I think I would like to keep him around at least on the two-way. There's enough there. So I don't know how that would shake out either. Because don't they have – I mean, they got Harkless, Jones, Onienso. So they got all three filled out right now. So there isn't an open spot.
Yeah, I think you can be flexible with that, though. Like if you wanted to part with – I mean – who knows with Harkless, but the fact that they recently signed him makes me think he'll take up one of the spots. But I feel like that Isaac Jones spot can be fairly flexible based on what happens or what the takeaways are from Summer League and what happens in training camp and any potential moves that have yet to be made too.
I do think if there's any two-way contract, that two-way spot that's updated, it would be Isaac Jones's. But I also think like he plays a position of need. Like they don't have much depth at power forward as well. So like in the event that you needed 8 minutes out of, Isaac Jones to do just rebound and be physical, like I think he could do that. I also don't have anybody as like a replacement that I would want to take his spot. From the Summer League team, we already know Drake Allen.
Not Roddy Gale. Come on.
I kind of so. As much as I was like,
yeah,
he's like, as much as last week, I was like, he's a Michigan guy. People just like him because he's a Michigan guy. He obviously is not putting the numbers up that Isaac Jones is putting up. Like at least Isaac Jones is scoring, but Roddy Gale to me, he's also growing on me these last few games because he just seems like a high IQ player. Like being able to knock a 3-pointer down. He had, I think it was the Suns game where he had the ball, like he got the ball in the corner. They closed out on him. He drove and did like a nice pocket pass to somebody underneath. And I was like, oh, that's a high IQ play. And that's the kind of player that I feel like I enjoy, who like makes the pass that is hard to see or is hard to read. So Gale is on. He would be, I guess it would be Drake Allen or Roddy Gale, but outside of our Summer League team, I wouldn't have any other idea of who could replace Isaac Jones.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit here because we did oddly enough have kind of news today that ends up breaking. So we got a little bit of real Jalen Duren news, a little bit of fake Jalen Duren news. Regardless, we have a good amount of questions on Jalen Duren, so I think we can just pull those up now. First one here, DP Victory from the DBB comments. What would Jalen Duren need to do to live up to a $40 million average annual value contract with the Detroit Pistons? And just for the note here, so we have it, Hunter Patterson on for The Athletic. Apologies for that. He put out an article today just with stuff he was hearing from Summer League out in Vegas. And I believe, if I'm reading this right, his quote was that signing Duren is still Detroit's number one offseason priority. So it looks like this is heading towards the resolution. When, who knows? But if it's at $40 million in average annual value, guys, what would Duren have to do to justify that?
I think the answer to me is pretty straightforward. Like, he needs to be the player he was in the regular season as opposed to who he was in the playoffs. And things change, and like, he doesn't have to put up 20 and 10 every night, but if he can, like, he took such a leap as an offensive just scorer last year, averaging 8 more points a game than he did the year before, and looking like he could be this team's real number 2 option alongside Cade Cunningham. And that came with an additional diet of shots, something that me and Wes have talked about at length. Of when he did go through those cold stretches, we thought it was as simple as just being more aggressive and getting your shot, because you're not the guy, but you're the next guy for this team, and they really need you to win games. Hopefully some additional improvement on the defensive end would help with that as well. But I think he just needs to be who he was in the regular season: aggressive near the rim, a good pick and roll partner for Cade, a lob threat at the rim, which I think will only help that he can do that when you also add John Collins into the mix. So as long as he can be where his numbers were last year, I think 40 million is well worth it. That's asking a lot, because he was an all-star, all NBA third team guy last year. But I think it's what he needs to be to show he's worth the Pistons giving him that much money and losing some of their flexibility because of it.
I think I have 2 things that if he was, I guess I'm viewing this as like, where does Duren need to improve if he were to be worth 40 million? And one, I think the defensive side of the ball, I wouldn't say he's below average. I wouldn't say he's above average. His rebounding, I think you can contribute on the defensive side as like an asset, because he's a great rebounder. But defensively, I think, just being a better rim protector would help. But I really think majority of his next step comes from his on-ball play. I think he was a great shot creator, being able to put the ball on the floor in the regular season, struggled with it in the postseason. But I think that the next step for him is being a better playmaker. I go back to 2 postseasons ago against the Knicks, where that pick and roll with Cade would hit Duren on the short roll. Duren's got the ball by the free throw line, and then they have Asar in the dunker spot. And he was a great playmaker for getting the ball into basically where Asar was in the dunker spot, whether he's throwing lobs, whether he's just getting rid of the ball quickly. I think this postseason, they did such a good job of like wanting to take away Duren's ability to get to the rim on these rolls. And we were missing that extra playmaking from him. And I think, to your point, Blake, with John Collins, it's another guy who can like stand in the dunker spot that you can throw lobs to. They have now more shooters around the 3-point line, where if they're closing in on you at the rim, you need to be able to find the open guy at the 3-point line. So to me, I think he takes a jump offensively if he's going to be worth 40 million. And it really comes from like the on-ball playmaking side of things, where as he becomes more and more of a threat of teams like game planning around him, he needs to adjust to that and find the open man, whether that's a 3-point shooter when the defense collapses, or if they're collapsing on him kind of at the high post, being able to find somebody for a lob or in the dunker spot. I think that's how he'll make a jump next year.
My head was in the same place, Robbie. In fact, I'd even broaden it just a little bit, because I think playmaking would be great. I also think it's creation to me. I think that you're just going to regardless actually of the deal that he's going to get, I think that the roster is being set up right now to just have Duren create more. And I honestly, with good reason. So, like, let me read off a couple of these. So, last season in isolation, Jalen Duren was an 84th percentile isolation basketball player. He averaged 1 point for every drive attempt that he made during the regular season. That is ridiculous efficiency. His effective field goal percentage on 3 to 6 dribbles, 59%. His effective field goal percentage on 7 or more dribbles, 55%. Like, he was a very efficient basketball player when he was asked to do these things, to actually create a little bit for himself. And we'd like that to open up a bit to create for others as well. So I think that that's kind of his next evolution. If you figure, hey, he flashed that mid-range jumper, let's expand that out a little bit. If he's a guy where we need a bucket, we're going to get you the ball in the mid post because they're taking Cade away, sending everything at him, and they're going to blitz every ball screen and just make that difficult for us. If you could get Jalen Duren the ball at the top of the key, not the NBA 3-point line, but like the top of the literal key, and just have him go make something happen in a bit of an isolation, be that, a dump down to John Collins, hitting a shooter out on the wing, maybe Asar Thompson's making a nicely timed cut, that sort of chemistry that they had in the playoffs 2 years ago. I think that's where this is going, because when you look at the roster, right, like they lost Harris, who for all of his faults as a ball handler, you could give him the ball and it would usually be okay. They didn't add anyone this offseason other than a rookie who you could give the ball and figure it'll probably be okay. So you're kind of thinking, all right, it's got to be Jenkins, it's got to be Duren, it's got to be Asar. And of those guys, Duren at least has the most promising numbers so far. So I kind of think that's where this is headed. Plus, obviously, he's going to get that big old payday. So I'm just going to say creation, because I'd like the assist to go up with that as well. But the other stuff, too, is really important with the way the roster is constructed.
One thing that I find interesting with this conversation and our responses as well, like, Wes, you briefly touched on it, but I find it interesting that none of us were like, he needs to stretch the floor. He needs to shoot some 3-pointers now. And frankly, Wes, the picture that you're painting of like, hey, they're doubling Cade, Duren's open at the top of the key and he hits him, and then there's a 4-on-3 opportunity where Duren is leading that. That's very exciting to me, whether it's Duren putting the ball on the floor and getting to the rim, him drawing in other defenders, so then John Collins is in the corner or Duncan Robinson's in the other corner. One of those guys are going to be open for an open 3. I'm very intrigued by that, and I'm also intrigued by, kind of to your point, with Tobias gone and kind of losing that, oh no, Cade couldn't create anything, let's give it to Tobias to, shoot a 15-foot post fadeaway or whatever. Now that that's gone, John Collins isn't really that kind of a player to me, of like a post player. So the shot creation, it's not coming from Duncan if he's the one who's starting at the 2. It has to be Asar or it has to be Duren. And I'm getting more and more excited as the offseason goes on about them two taking on those roles, as opposed to like going to get that number 2 secondary creator that everybody wanted. I'm getting more and more intrigued with Asar and Duren getting more on-ball playmaking opportunities in this offense.
Yep. And that was like with Duren specifically, that was something that was exciting about his game early on. And last season is when he takes this step, I feel like it got lost in translation a little bit. And yeah, I'm with you guys that it is something, once this new deal happens, because it feels like it's going to happen, that is an area where the Pistons need someone to step up there. And if it's 40 million, like, ask your $40 million player to take more of the, make more of an effort on that side. And because he can do it. We saw those flashes earlier in his career. And yeah, the loss of Tobias will definitely be felt. I think John Collins is a good replacement starting 4, but like you both said, he's a different player than Tobias Harris. It leaves some opportunity for Duren and Asar. And I think for Duren to take that next step too, like, if he can add some facilitating alongside what he already did in the regular season, I mean, that's it. He'll have multiple more all-star appearances over his career. I mean, I know it's mainly a scoring thing, but at the same time, he'll be one of the most effective big men in the game, even if he is a little lackluster on the defensive end, which is interesting to think about.
All right, you're talking about the contract. I want to bring this up from last week. This is from Chuck Wagon, asking what's the most a player has ever turned down to take the qualifying offer. And I've done a little bit of background on this now, but admittedly, this is kind of a tough question. So let me just read off some names from the past, okay? Because I found a nice little Hoops Rumors like summary on some bigger-ish names that took the QO. And let me know if any of these players is really like, yeah, you think that they turned down a ton of money. Obviously, Greg Monroe. That was a big one. Norris Cole. Let's see. Nick Young, Marco Bellinelli, Spencer Hawes, Raymond Felton, Ben Gordon. Anyone in here just like...
How many all NBA players was that?
Yeah,
0?
That's
Yeah, none. This is really... So this is the point that I was gonna make to you, Robbie, last week on the show, but I hadn't done enough background on it to really make it confidently yet. But we're truly in some unprecedented territory here, and it's 100% on the new CBA. Like I don't think Duren and his camp are doing anything necessarily wrong here. I don't think the Pistons are doing necessarily anything wrong here. This is just kind of the business of this very restrictive new collective bargaining agreement that just forced the Celtics to trade a Jaylen Brown. Like, I mean, this is just kind of what it is, I think. Like Cam Thomas last offseason, another good example, Quentin Grimes as well. It's just tough out there being a restricted free agent, guys. It's just
a lot of guards too, no, in your list? It felt guard heavy.
Lots of guards. There were some other big men names, like Stromile Swift was one, Malvin Eli, Mikal Petrus as well. I mean, he was kind of like a combo wing forward player, but for the most part, it was a lot more guards. And honestly, I think the biggest money deal looking at this on the next contract was actually Ben Gordon, which is just a lovely memory.
He was sixth man of the year as a rookie, which is pretty impressive. But Greg Monroe is really like the only. There are other bigs, but he was good earlier in his career as a Piston, but he wasn't Jalen Duren. I mean, he was like a little bit older at this stage of his career. So I mean, I do feel bad because I feel like Duren is sort of put in a spot where he is missing out on money because no other teams can sign him at this point. As like things have went on, the Pistons have all the leverage, all the control, but at the same time, like the Pistons aren't going to mortgage their future. They want to find a deal that makes sense for both sides, which definitely goes into less money for the player, which is hard to swallow. And I hope it doesn't like shake things up. I hope it sounds like they're going to come to a resolution, but it is just a product of the modern day NBA, which maybe there will be some tweaks for situations like this as they come out, because they're definitely becoming more prevalent than they used to be.
Yeah, Robbie, this is just kind of like the unfortunate situation, right? Because unless you are coming off your rookie contract as a Cade Cunningham, if you are, you're not getting into restricted free agency. You're just getting the big money extension.
Right.
But if you aren't that caliber of player, the way the CBA is set up right now with all the penalties of getting into even the first and then eventually second apron, like you're just not going to get that auto max deal. Like you rookies in the past, well, not rookies, but rookie contract players used to when they were kind of this caliber of very, very good all-star caliber, borderline all NBA, but just not quite the headliner name. Right. And that's just kind of, it's unfortunate, right?
Yeah, the second apron definitely seems to be scaring teams as if like it's the hard cap. Do not go over the second apron. Like we will not do it. So the new apron rules over the past few years have definitely seemed to make a difference. I also think restricted free agency is very, very tough on the player because it just limits so much of like what you can explore, what you can get. And at this point, whether or not it's like Duran's team's fault or if it's even anyone's fault, really, but like the fact that Detroit is the only suitor now, like it is what it is. And I will say I think Duran's been getting like a bad rep online on Twitter. Like it seems like Pistons fans are like tired of this process to where I can't think of anything over the past few weeks, the past month. I don't think I've heard a single word come out of Jalen Duren's mouth directly. Like I have not heard him say he doesn't want to come back. I have not heard him say he wants the max from Sacramento and only Sacramento. So the impatience of the fan base, I think, is a little bit disappointing to where to me, Duren and his team are doing exactly what they're supposed to do of trying to get, their guy as much money as they possibly can, get him in the best situation that's for him. So I do think the way that some Pistons fans are treating him online is unfair, but I think they're also just bored and want a notification of, hey, Duren didn't make $40 million per year. And like, that's what they need. So all the aggregating that's going on Twitter, I think like Hunter Patterson, go to his article. He released a gift article. So even if you don't have an athletic subscription, you can read what he just released today if you go to his Twitter account. Everything that he says, I would go directly to him for your information and not Polymarket Hoops or whoever is aggregating that Duren does not want to be here. So Hunter has said like the entire time that Duren is their number one priority. They're confident. Both sides are confident that they're going to come to a deal that's fair for both sides. So not once have I had any concern about him taking the qualifying offer. Not once have I really considered that Sabonis is all of a sudden going to be on this team. So all signs continue to point to Duren being on this team. To me, Cade, Asar, Duren, 24, 23, 22. That is your core moving forward. And I will now get off my soapbox about social media and Twitter and all of that. So
it's the millionth reminder, but it's still a good reminder. If you guys want good information about your team, go to your local beat reporters. 100%. Those are the guys that have the pulse. They know exactly what's going on. And you can almost, they're never going and fishing for clicks or anything like that. So, that those are the guys, as great as like Windhorse at ESPN is, he's very entertaining, good personality. I like watching him on TV. He just doesn't have the same pulse of the teams, like say an Omari or a Hunter or whoever is actually on the ground in the locker room after games. So that is what it is. But we had another nice question here from DP Victory. And I like this, just, you mentioned the core of the team, right, is going to be Cade, Duren, Asar. So the third of that, Asar Thompson, he's going to need a new contract as well. If not now, then after next season. So this was kind of fun. If he's going to be part of the core, as DP Victory asks here, what kind of production do we think Asar Thompson would need to make in order to actually earn an all-star appearance? Which would be interesting because presumably this would mean the Pistons would have 3 all-stars, which I don't think has happened since that whole the group of 4 went there near the kind of back half of the going to work era.
So I'm not sure that Asar will get to all-star level production, and that's not a slight to him. I just think he's like, if Cade's here, if Duren's here, if you go out and acquire another scorer, like I don't know if Asar's game will get him those all-star nods, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like he got a ton of Andre Iguodala comps through the draft and early as he was coming into the league. Andre Iguodala had one All-Star appearance over his 19-year career, and he averaged like 12.5 points, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists. I don't think that's getting you in the modern day NBA. We know that Asar Thompson is one of the best, if not the best defender in the entire league. But I mean, if he's doing what he does and he jumps to like, I don't think he's going to jump to like 20 points a game, but say like 16, 17, maybe, if he's being as impactful on the NBA end or on the defensive end. But I don't know. I just don't see it. I hope I'm wrong, but I think you're going to see plenty of first team all defense, hopefully defensive player of the years if Victor Wembanyama takes a few years off. But I just think his type of game doesn't lend itself into the all-star conversation, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing because you need players like him to win.
I think this question is fascinating because, a player like Asar, just so unique, but while he maybe doesn't fill up the box score a ton, like you feel his impact every game. So agreed that like from a box score standpoint, like I don't know how he makes an all-star team, but I went and I looked up Draymond when he used to make the all-star team back like 10 years ago. He was a DPOY candidate. So same thing as Asar. And for a few years, Draymond was averaging like 10, 8, and 7. Here's an 11, 7, and 7. So that from a box score standpoint, I'm like not blown away at those numbers, but to me, that's Draymond like making an impact on the team way more than what his box score says. So that's the kind of thing where I would see Asar making an all-star team, and that's if his assist numbers are way up. I don't think he needs to score all that much. I think he averages like what, 8 or 9 a game. It's not very high right now.
Around 10.
Okay.
Yep, right under 10.
So I would say, if he's averaging 13, 7, and 7, like what does that look like? But that's a massive jump from a playmaking standpoint that he would have to make. And even in the pecking and rebounding, and even in the pecking order right now of who's going to get more rebounds or who's going to get more playmaking opportunities, I think Duren is in front of him in regards to both of those things. So I would have to see a world where like Trey Murphy is on the team and Asar is your instant like shooting guard, secondary creator kind of guy where he's finding, shooters where he makes that kind of a jump. But so I think Asar would have to make a huge jump as kind of like a playmaker for him to see an all-star game.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Just to jump in quickly here, like this, what Ned Edwards brought up in the comments is where my head went to. He mentioned if Asar can make all-star teams when the Pistons are routinely contending, like, yeah, if this team makes multiple finals runs in the matter of a few years and is always in the mix, like that's a way to get in, even if the box scores aren't crazy, his numbers don't blow you away. That's what we saw with the going to work teams. That's what we saw with Draymond, like Robbie said. So I think it has to be a mix of like somewhat of a personal leap, but also this team has to like stay in contention and make real runs at the title as well.
It was 2006 when all 4 Pistons made the all-star team. So they had won the championship 2 years later, still contending. And yeah, so great point on that.
So Pistons fan 11 brings up Rodman and Ben Wallace being all-stars. This is actually where my instinct went, which is like, Asar's just so unique. If he's so impactful defensively that it's genuinely a conversation by mid-season of like, is he actually more impactful defensively than Victor Wembanyama? Which could happen if he's up at like 4.5 stocks per game, which would admittedly be an entirely additional stock that he doesn't have right now. But if he's at that level, like you look at Ben Wallace's first All-Star year, it was 3.2 blocks, 1.4 steals, and 15 rebounds. The year before that, 3.5 blocks, 1.7 steals, 13 rebounds. If Asar Thompson is getting to like that level of defensive impact, not necessarily on the rebounds, but on the stock side of things, I think now you're seeing it. Like if he's 3.5 steals and a block and a half, okay, that might be good enough if the Pistons are on that 16 win, 60, not 60, 16, good Lord, 60 win pace again for the second year in a row. He's got now the credential. He was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. And then he follows it up with something ridiculous like that defensively in terms of his production. Okay, I could see him getting a nod there for that. Pistons fan 11, though, fun kind of quick hitter question. What's his ceiling on offense? And I say it's fun because Asar Thompson, through his 3 years, his average over those 3 years is pretty dang representative of each season. Like there hasn't been a wild swing here. He's been pretty consistent. So that 3-year average, 9.6 points, 5.8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.6 steals, almost a block, slashing about 51, 20, 50. Oh, no, not 56, 60. 60% from the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has some room to grow his offensive game. Like, I know we're all waiting for the day where he magically starts making threes, but I don't think that that's going to happen. That's ever going to be a big part of his game. I think he can grow his offensive, like maybe to Robbie's comparison with Draymond, like scoring wise, I think he has room to go up there. We know he's a part of this core for the long haul. The franchise sees him as that. I think he does have some room to grow as a playmaker as well. Maybe not to like 7 assists per game with Cade on the team as one of the best playmakers in the league. Adding someone else, maybe a Corey grows into that. You also have Jalen Duren in the mix. I think he can get more assists. But hey, he averaged 2 steals a game last year. Like, I think that can go up. And sorry, I jumped to the defense or the defensive end. Like, that's just such
it's really
a critical
hard
part.
not to.
Yeah, it's like such a critical part of his game. It's hard to ignore, but I do think he can grow his offensive numbers a bit, and he doesn't have to, but I think he will if the team commits to him in a long-term extension, which all signs are pointing toward that happening after the Jalen Duren situation is finalized. And that's what Hunter brought up in his piece on The Athletic as well. So I don't think he's ever going to be a 20-point per game guy, but I think you can see him around 13, 14 points a game, and just not from 3-point range, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think like a 15, 7, and 5 is like a good ceiling for him. Wes, I think you and I have shared in this comparison, but basically calling him athletic Draymond is kind of like how I view his role offensively. And one thing that I think Draymond does really well that Asar has started to pick up on, or like JB Bickerstaff and the coaching staff has gotten Asar to do this, is Draymond not really a threat as a shooter anymore, but he does a great job of when he's passed the ball at the 3-point line, instantly like finding Steph Curry and running a dribble handoff with him to where nobody is guarding Draymond. And so as long as he can hand it off to Steph, set a screen on Steph's guy, then Steph is wide open for a 3. There was a sequence in the Orlando game, whichever one they had when they went on like a crazy, insane run, and then Asar blocked Wendell Carter Jr. at the rim. The possession before that, he ran a dribble handoff with Cade in the corner where Asar was open at the 3-point line. I think Cade hit him, and then Cade instantly came back around, hit him with a dribble handoff, and Cade drilled the corner 3. I think that dribble handoff sequence is how Asar can still be a threat on offense, even as a non-shooter, is instantly keeping the ball moving, getting it back to a Duncan Robinson, to a Cade, to an Isaiah Joe on a dribble handoff to get a shooter open off of that. That's where that athletic Draymond role is where I see Asar excelling.
Yeah, and that's why I want to see him used as a screener a little bit more too, both on and off the ball. If you're going to segue off Asar, and he doesn't have the ball, fantastic. Have him go set a screen for Isaiah Joe. Let him curl up over it with no one sitting underneath it. That sounds great to me. Same thing with ball screen stuff. So since I don't have anything new to add, one last question, and then we're going to jump in because I would just echo everything you both have said here with Asar's offensive ceiling. And actually, shout out to KeepCon, who asked us a pretty fun question about just kind of the rest of the offseason as that's wrapping up. We're going to hit on that next week, so we're going to leave that here in our little banners section. But let's wrap up on this, guys. All right, quick one. Pistons fan 11 asking, we're going to put a bow on it here. Does his play worry you based on what we've seen in Summer League so far or not? We kind of talked generally out of his game, out of not being too concerned with the percentages, but overall level of concern, high, low, nothing. What do you guys think? Let's go to you first, Robbie.
I have no worries about a 19-year-old who has just joined the NBA after playing his first 4 games of 5v5 since Stanford. So 0 worries on my end.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm still waiting to see him in a context where he has more freedom, less defensive attention. I like that he's still getting shots up even when they're not falling. So I'm not concerned either. Summer League is the time to let it fly. I mean, he's definitely taken some questionable shots. If those continue into the regular season, then I think it could be time to worry, and I wouldn't even be super worried there. I just think that he needs some more time. But overall, even though after the first game you've definitely been hoping for more, I'm not worried in the slightest either.
Yeah, I'm not worried either. I think the rim pressure, the ability to get anywhere he wants on the floor has been exciting. But I will also just readily admit, guys, this is an archetype of player I really like. I have a soft spot for this style of guard that can just create a rim pressure whenever they want, even if they're not all that efficient when they get there. It's just fun to watch these guys. I've got a soft spot for it. So this very much is my kind of draft pick for the Pistons. I was pretty excited by it. So nothing that we've seen here in Summer League, unless it was egregiously bad, would have gotten me too disappointed here. So I think he's met expectations. He gets where he wants to go, and the percentages, it's Summer League. It kind of doesn't matter. But I think we do have to address this one, Robbie. This is Ned Edwards question. 232. Is that a dead body behind Robbie? If you guys aren't watching here, if you're just listening on podcast, Robbie's got a friend back there behind in his camera, and presumably, that just seems like his spot. So you might see him a lot if you tune in. Who's our buddy back there?
That is my Great Dane. Not a dead body. That is my Great Dane, whose name is Zeke. So that's where he spends majority of his days at. So he will probably be a part of these podcasts many, many times moving forward. But I saw he was puppy dreaming at one point. I don't know if you guys saw it. His feet were flip-flopping while he was puppy dreaming.
Is he named after Isaiah Thomas?
He's not. That was his name when we adopted him.
Okay.
But
Robbie, you got to learn to
lie. We're
going
to go with that. I know
I'm
a bad liar, but we're going to say yes. Yes.
Yeah, we're just going to run with it. We're saying yes.
Pistons fan.
There it is.
Yes.
Yep.
After Isaiah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, all right. I think we got to wrap it up here, guys. Robbie, obviously, thanks for coming on. For the last time for you, tell everyone where they can find your work, because moving forward, they can find you on the Pindown. But go ahead.
Yep. You can find all my work on DetroitBadBoys.com. And then I guess after today as co-host of the Pindown. So,
all right, Blake, for one last time, let me throw it to you here to wrap it up. And again, man, just appreciate you for the journey we've had here over the past few years. And it's been a pleasure doing the podcast with you. And we're definitely going to have you on whenever you're available and ready to do so moving forward. But, best wishes to you, your growing family, and couldn't be happier for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, thank you both. Obviously. Wes, been a great ride. It's not over. I'll be back. And Robbie, you've been a huge part of it along the way, and know you're really going to do great things. You're already doing great things here. And again, shout out to everyone for listening over the past 2 seasons, even through the dog days, the jury days. The show's not going anywhere. Won't be the official co-host anymore, but I'll be back. You guys can find my written stuff mainly on si.com. Still will be around the DBB verse a little bit as well. But mainly, thank you all so much. Never thought I'd be speaking into a microphone for this long over this amount of time. So really couldn't do that without everyone. So super appreciative. And yeah, for the last time, reminder that everyone can call our phone line, ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor for Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week. I should say Wes and Robbie will catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. And we can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.